and that was a lot of good information in a relatively short time. So I hope you absorbed a lot. We've got the speakers out here. If you have questions, don't be shy. This is your opportunity. We'll just roll right into it. So if you got a question, just raise your hand and we'll get you an answer. Yeah, second row.
I get asked that question a lot. So I was in the unique position at the restaurant that it's my family, and we started it. I started off in the kitchen as the pastry chef, and I still am actually, but I do all the desserts, all the breads. And when my mom she was the executive chef originally, she fell and she broke her hip, and we tried to hire, and we weren't finding the right chefs out there that fit the exact role of what we needed. And it was through being just thrown into the fire that I really stepped up and realized that, oh, hey, I can do this. And I went on and I read a lot of books. I actually read a lot of Julia Child's books, and I never thought that Italian cooking would be the way to go. But yeah, so it was really a trial and error of being thrown into the fire, and here I am.
Yeah.
Well, I think that no one has all the answers, and I think it really matters that you have people that you surround yourself with that have walked your path and have been and experienced what you're going through. So for me, like I said, I spoke about my family, my grandparents today, but also in my presentation, there was a picture of myself with U.S. Senator Sherrod Brown. It's also important to find people in your career of choice or whatever you're passionate about. It's good to find people in those fields and really try to grasp their knowledge and really take in all you can.
I think there was a question right behind. Yeah.
For Ms. Rothenberger, so I have a question for you, and it's about your social media presence.
Okay.
Is it more important for you to find somebody with a positive presence or just none at all? Because me personally, I don't really use social media that much, other than like saying hey to friends and catching up. So is it more positive for you to find somebody without one, or would you rather have somebody with?
That's a really good question. So, one, I do look on social media to see what I can find of somebody. It always helps me understand a person before they would come in for an interview. So if somebody's going to be coming in for an interview, I am going to take a look at LinkedIn, especially. HR department's probably kind of done the other scans. I'm going to look on LinkedIn, though, to see what kind of things are they interested in, what are they following, what extra groups are they in. I'm going to be looking for something to tell me about their growth. Now, am I going to say, if I can't find you on social media, if I can't find you on LinkedIn, I would never put a ding against you because of that. I'm excited about the opportunity for you to come in personally and show me that. I will say the biggest difference, though, is what are you getting out of it by not? So if somebody who is on social media and is very active and is learning and is growing and is a part of communities, they're getting more value out of it versus the opportunity to not get that value out of it. So I would say, if anything, it's not so much for the employer looking at that versus what you're getting out of it by not. So I think it's a good thing to choose social media, but choosing wisely. For instance, I'm not on a lot of different social medias because I'm very particular about what I am on, and I use it really to help improve me for my career. So I get value out of it, but I understand your point of, as an employer looking at it, I would never put it against you because you're not on it. I wouldn't hold that against you. But I would say at the same time, on the other side of it, you're not really getting any value, and it's out there. You can get so much value from things on there. Good question.
I think there was a question, yeah.
Very good question. Yeah. It can be very, very tiresome at times, no doubt. I actually, most of my meetings for the city are typically in the evenings. So I try my best. And fortunately, I started my first 2 years of college at Kent State Tuscarawas to stay local. And right now, I currently commute half my day to the main campus and then the other half at Stark. So it can be very chaotic. There's no doubt about that. But you'll come to find that if you're really passionate about something, the chaos, it doesn't matter. You'll work around it. So I'll be honest with you. There's been times where I come home after a long day and I'm wiped out. But at the end of the day, I think about what I'm doing and I truly love it. So wouldn't change it for anything.
Yeah, in the back.
My peers, that's a very good question. I've been fortunate to work with some very good people. There have been the majority, I would say, have all been pretty supportive and good to work with. There have been some that, think I'm a little bit wet behind the ears, and there are times during debate or discussion, sometimes I get the feeling that, I am at times looked down upon, but like I said, majority of the people that I do work with have a pretty good understanding and have been good to work with. However, no matter what field you're in, there's always going to be a few that you might not agree with, you might disagree with, and you just have to make it work, and you always have to be willing to listen to others. And if it's great if you strongly believe in something, but it's always good to compromise as well.
I see a hand over here, yeah.
I did. It started off when my mom was doing a personal chef service. It wasn't when the restaurant, this was way before the restaurant. She was doing a personal chef service, and I was just helping her part-time. And the more I helped her, the more I realized that I had a love for this. And right around that time, I had gotten introduced to Pinterest. And I was seeing all these baking recipes and all this and that. And I'm like, ooh, I want to try this, and I want to try this. And we were outsourcing our baking at the time. Because of the licensing, we didn't have a home bakery license, so we had to outsource that. And when we were outsourcing that, we weren't happy with the quality of product that we were getting. And so I started doing research, and one thing led to the next, and we got our home bakery license. And it was really just with helping her is when I discovered it. If you would ask me if I ever would have dreamed I would be in the kitchen and actually really enjoy it and really enjoy working 80-hour weeks, my answer would be like, you are crazy, and I would never dream of that. But because just through business decisions and the quality of products that we were looking for, I started out gradually and then moved on to full scale, and it's been amazing.
Any other questions? Yes.
Good question. So usually I'm on, like I said, I'm on LinkedIn for checking out, because LinkedIn is more work related. I'm not going to go, obviously, try to friend somebody on Snapchat or anything. And usually for LinkedIn, I'm going to say most of the time people do not have privacy settings turned on. So that becomes pretty tough, and at that point, I'm just going to give them the opportunity to take a look at their resume and bring them in for more questioning. Sometimes I will try to reach out and connect with them if it's a strong enough candidate, so I may connect with them to see if I can find out more information about them. good question. That makes it very tough. If your privacy settings are on, you're not going to get to see, things that, even the good stuff. So, good question.
Is there a question over here?
Biggest setback actually probably wasn't during the campaign. It's been more in elected office. It's funny because campaigning and actually getting into office and governing are two completely different things. And it just, very good question. I would just say that probably the biggest setback for me has been actually last year's budget I voted against. And I mentioned this during my presentation. 3 of the biggest issues that I've focused on have been road paving, cleaning up neighborhoods, and also fiscal responsibility. And I would say that probably my biggest setback was last year voting against the 2019 Eurexville budget because we didn't budget enough in the demolition fund to demolish blighted properties. And also, I didn't feel at the time that we budgeted enough money in road paving. So I would say, like I said, fortunately I was successful during the campaign. My setbacks didn't really take effect until I got into office.
Yeah, front.
Yeah, that's a great question. So growing up here in this county, I was kind of a weird kid. I was always obsessed with geography and dreaming about different places. And when I was in college, I had the opportunity to live in France for about 6 months to really study there and focus on French language acquisition. And through that, I began to learn that in Africa, some of the poorest countries, the most needy places, were actually French-speaking. And so I was really interested in working in a place where I could focus on economic development, working in very poor countries. And so after I finished graduate school, I remember I got online and I just typed Africa on monster.com, a job search site. And the first job just happened to be in these countries that I had studied and focused on in graduate school. And so when I got there, it was completely kind of random that my focus was on disability. But as soon as I got there and began working with people with disabilities, like Tara said, it ignited a passion that I never thought was there. So it was really just kind of random how it all happened. I just wanted to be overseas. That was my goal. And in doing so, I learned a whole new set of things that I loved and was passionate about.
Yeah, in the back.
That's a great question. I did not. I was one of those kids, maybe some of you are here, where I was like, when I'm 18, I'm going overseas, I'm not looking back. But life happened. And whenever I was overseas working, I got married. My wife was actually from Denison. We had some kids. And I had to travel a lot away from my family. And that became difficult. We had 2 kids very quickly. And now we have 4. And the more I was gone, the more I was away from my family, that just became difficult to balance. I saw some people who could travel and still have a family, and they loved it. But as our project got successful and we began even moving outside of Africa into Europe, talking about Asia, it just became too much for me. And I had to focus, again, on kind of knowing myself and what made me happy. And it came to a point where, man, I felt like I was missing so much with my family by helping others. I needed to make a change. And then as we started talking about that, we began to reflect on this area, my wife and I, and began to think about all the positive things we had, all of the family, all the friends, all the good experiences. And we really kind of started to change our attitude about coming back. And now we've been back about 4 or 5 years, and it has been incredible. And it's been really neat to be able to take what I learned overseas and bring that back to this community I love. So to answer your question originally, no way, I never thought I would come back, but every day I'm glad that I did.
Yes, right down in the front.
That's a great question. So I love language study. It's one of my favorite things. So in undergrad at Mount Union, I studied French, Spanish, and Russian and Japanese for 4 years. And then in graduate school, I studied actually Swahili, an African language, because I knew I wanted to be working overseas. And so I would encourage all of you, even though English is a powerful international language, when you know a language of a country, it opens up doors. You're able to speak to people in new ways. And language speaks a lot about culture. In Japanese, there are several different grammars that you use based on somebody's status or age in the community. So by learning a language, you're able to learn the heart of the people and better understand the places you're going. So I would encourage, if any of you love languages, pursue it. It opens up a lot of doors.
So to answer that question, is it five languages?
5, but French and English are
Okay.
where I do the best.
Any other questions? Yes.
What made me look to people for true leadership? That's a great question. I think for me, when I looked to mentors in terms of leadership, I wanted to find people who I didn't only respect them professionally, but also personally. And what really changed for me, I was in college and I saw all these leaders who did a lot of great things professionally, but when I saw their personal lives, I really didn't like what I saw. But in college, I had this professor. His name was Dr. Horning at Mount Union. He was incredibly unassuming, kind of a dorky guy. But when you got to know him deeper, you found that he used his economics background to work in impoverished communities all over the world. And he inspired me, not because of his great lectures, but because of what he also did in his personal life. So for me, it was about finding people who I could admire their whole person, not just what their resume was, but what their home life looked like, what was important to them, what their beliefs were. So I'd encourage you to find people like that who you can respect the whole picture of who they are.
There was one in the back. So I think the question is, did you make the right choice when you went to college? So just go down the line.
That's an excellent, excellent question. And I remember whenever I was in your shoes thinking about which colleges to go to, I talked to a mentor in my life. I had 2 choices. One was a very comfortable fit that I thought would fit me socially. It was just felt very, very normal for me. Now I can remember that mentor said to me, well, yeah, Nate, that would be a good choice if you want to be comfortable. And just something about how she said that made me think differently. I thought, I'm not sure that I want my life to be about what makes me comfortable. And so I actually went with the opposite choice. It was a little bit outside of my comfort zone, way different. And I'm so glad because it pushed me, it changed me, it challenged me. I left there a different person than if I would have went this other route that really fit within my comfort zone. So I'd encourage you guys when you think about your colleges, maybe just don't go with the safe bet. Try something that stretches you a little bit because I imagine you'll be happy that you did.
This is a really tough question. So I started off, I was post-secondary, and I came here to Kent Tusk, and I decided I'm good at math, I'm good at art kind of stuff, I like all that. Sure, mechanical engineering sounds like a great fit. So I started down that path, and I never changed because I seen the people that were like changed majors many times. I'm like, I don't want to do that. I'm going to just stick with one idea. I don't know what it's going to lead me to, but I'm going to go with that. So I stuck with mechanical engineering, and there was a job posting for a job at Allied in the cafe at Kent Tusk. So seen a job, they were hiring, I was like, okay, cool, because I'm waitressing right now, and that could be better. That's something in my field. So got the job 17 years later, almost 17 years later with Allied. Doors had just continued to open up for me. I never thought that. I thought that, okay, I'm going to go get my engineering degree. I'm going to have to probably move away. I'm going to probably have to do something different. Opening that door that opened for me with Allied has been awesome because I've been working for a great company that has really, it's a global company. So the cool thing is I have got to travel with Allied. I have got to travel to Italy, to Germany, and really just got to do a lot of different things. But the cooler part is that I'm not your typical engineer. Like, okay, I stuck with engineer because I'm good at math, right? Okay, but I'm not an engineer that sits behind a desk and draws. That is not me. very creative type of role that I have at Allied, where I get to, look at catalogs, I get to analyze the market, I get to do business, I'm help with sales, I'm responsible for the sales. So my job is really, really diverse. And I never would have thought that just going into engineering. So that's why I said earlier in the social media talk, go out on LinkedIn, take a look and see what's out there, because it's not just accounting, it's not just engineering, it's not just I want to go be one particular, whatever your degree is going to be, that's not going to be your job title. So I think the coolest thing is that it has led me to a path that really opened up my world, because I'm not just a typical engineer, that I really have got to do so much more and be responsible and challenged every day. So did I make the right decision? I didn't know it at the time, but yes, I have.
Very good question. I would say never be fearful of changing course or trying something new. And I'll be honest with you, I started out, I've already changed my major. Last summer I did. I started out in education and wanted to go into teaching. Changed it to political science after 2 years of being in education. But I will also tell you that had I had not got elected my freshman year of college, I would have never made the decision to change majors from education to political science. I'd just been around it so much. I also worked in high school for the Tuscarawas County Board of Elections at the time, so I was around politics all the time. And had I had not been around that, I would have never made that decision to change majors or change course in life. Like I said, I wanted to be a teacher, all from like second grade up until pretty much, sophomore year of college. And it wasn't until I was around the political scene that, that really influenced me. But I'll also tell you, like I said, and, especially in my case, I was a younger guy in politics, and I was, with a lot of older people. Never be scared of being a younger person or an older person for that matter. I mean, you look at non-traditional students, there's nothing wrong with that. You are on your own time course. No one else sets that for you. And I don't want to get political, but if you look at, the presidential debates, you've got, a wide variety of older people and younger people. I mean, I just think it goes without saying that you set your own pace, and there really is no set course for you to follow. So you make that decision on your own. And like I said, don't be afraid to try new things, because old ways won't open new doors. So try new things and, become a more diverse person is what I'm saying. Because once you try those new things, that will lead to more opportunities, and you'll become a more well-rounded person for it.
For me, my problem, I didn't anticipate that I would be one of the students that changed my major 6 times. I'm like, oh my gosh, I am certifiably crazy right now. My issue was, and what I encourage you to do, is find the right people that can speak into your life. Find the right mentors. Find the right counselors. Because in my case, my counselor, oh, well, if you like this, just go for that. It was it wasn't an in-depth conversation that we really got to have and really got to dive into it. And so I would encourage you to find mentors out there, find the right counselors, and then, I'm going to be a little bold here. Go and if you are looking at a job, I'm just going to use myself as an example. If you are looking for a career in the line of food, and if you want to go into the restaurant, if you give me a call and say, hey, Tara, I would just like to learn more about it. Can I come shadow you for a day? Can I come volunteer my time and do X, Y, Z? Or if you want to get into photography, ask if you can follow a photographer around. There's nothing wrong with calling somebody and asking, because in a sense, you're only asking for their time and a little bit of their wisdom. You're not asking for a monetary donation or anything like that. But that will speak volumes to a potential employer, is somebody picking up the phone and showing the initiative and saying, hey, can I come learn from you? And maybe, because I went to Kent post-secondary, focus on the classes that you need to take. Don't focus on the classes that are required for your major. Because if you are undecided, and if you don't know without a shadow of a doubt, why waste your time? Why waste your money? Go, take the classes that you need to take, and then explore. Once you have that niche down and your passion nailed down, then go back. Okay, is Kent State the right spot for me? Is Malone the right spot for me? You name the school. Is that the right school for this field? And that would be my suggestion.
All right, I think we have time for one more question, right there in the middle.
Yeah, that's an excellent question, Cheyenne. And I can remember I was in a meeting at work, and somebody was asking me when I graduated, and I said the year. And there were two coworkers next to me who just laughed like hysterically. And I was like, what in the heck is going on? And I remember from that moment, though, I stepped back and I thought, you know what, if the fact that they're mad because I'm young and I have a leadership position, that's what they're mad about, you know what, I'm okay with that. If they were like mad that, I'm making bad decisions or I'm making poor leadership, but if the only thing they have on me is my age, well then you know what, I'm okay with that. And I think it was really just being comfortable in my own skin and realizing that as a young person that I have a leadership role, that means that there's been a lot of good people in my life helping me there. I just kind of owned it. And I think too, I made this shift in my mind that instead of trying to do everything well, I was focusing in on things that I really loved at work, that I could really become a leader in. And now at the state level, I've had opportunities to lead those projects. So it was kind of ignoring what I heard and then just channeling my energy on things that I really loved and allowing that to open up doors for me as I went. But it definitely was there, it happened, but it just couldn't define me. Great question.
I'd like to add to that. I think that in those types of cases where being very young in an environment like that, the biggest thing is people at nature actually love to teach. And being a person that actually asks a lot of questions and lets their peers open up and have a teachable moment, one, you get their respect because they like to teach and they like to give off their knowledge, but also you've shown them that you don't know everything. So I completely get it. I was 20 years old as an engineer going into companies that, large companies, Ford Automotive, or going into a lot of engine plants as an engineer, telling people how they should be manufacturing. That was not easy. In being a girl, young, there was a lot of challenges with that. So the biggest thing that I feel that helped me through that is just asking questions. Because I guess she doesn't know it all. All right, well, I'll teach her. So being very open and asking questions works for both sides of the parties there.
All right. Well, let's give one more big thank you to all of our presenters today.